We got Randy Jones from United Way here now. And how long have you been with United Way?
Well, I came to Ashtabula County with United Way in 1991, so I can't do that kind of math anymore. That's a little too advanced for me. It's been a while.
24? Is that
about
right?
24 years, I guess it is, yeah. And prior to that, I was actually with the United Way down in Greenville, Pennsylvania, which is just in the southern end of Tuning Lake, of course. And,
right.
And before that, both my wife and I worked with adolescents in a couple of different social service programs, generally kids who just needed some help, needed some guidance, and were kind of off track, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about United Way. Is your campaign do you have a kickoff campaign anymore, or is it just kind of ongoing?
We've sort of gotten away from that because it requires a lot of organization and a lot of time and effort that we think could be better spent doing other things, like improving people's lives. So, and the reality of the United Way campaign is that it's kind of a year-long process any longer, because we found that a lot of companies, we used to run our campaigns pretty much September, October, November, and a lot of companies are saying to us, well, that doesn't fit our schedule really well. Could we run our United Way campaign in March? And that's fine. If you want to run your campaign in March, that's great. We'll do whatever. So the campaign is very diffuse, and it's over a longer period of time. So we don't do the big kickoff anymore, and that does give us time to concentrate on the programs that we want to make sure are successful, and make sure that we're spending our money in the best possible way to help Ashtabula County.
So how is the campaign doing these days now without the big kickoffs and all?
Our campaign last year raised a little more money than the year before, and
that's
a little more
good.
money than 2 years ago. Right. So overall, we're actually pretty pleased with our campaigns. I mean, it's a fact that we do not raise now what we did 10, 15 years ago. We know that we've lost a number of manufacturing jobs in Ashtabula County, and in fact, we've lost a number of employers in Ashtabula County. And since most contributions to the United Way come from people who give it work, we've lost a lot of those people, those jobs that used to support the United Way campaign. And that's really the story across Northeast Ohio, Northwest Pennsylvania, all of us in those manufacturing economies. I don't have to tell anybody about that. Everyone is, I think, is experiencing that. But still, we're really happy with the support that we have. We have probably 5,000 or 6,000 individuals who donate to our United Way in any given year, and they are very, very generous, and we're very grateful for that.
Now, does this go through their company? So it's like company takes money out, or do they just most of them give you like a lump sum at one time?
Most people who donate to United Way at the workplace give through payroll deduction.
Okay.
For instance, just yesterday, I was at an employee meeting, a delightful employee meeting at Kingsville Elementary School in Kingsville. Yes, the school that my 2 children attended when they were younger.
My grandson's there now.
Oh, all right. I was there before the kids arrived, but I was speaking to the staff at Kingsville Elementary School, talking about United Way and what we do in the community, the organizations that we support, and why we need support from the employees of the Buckeye schools in this case. And so they had a pledge form, and most of them, and most people who are involved in the United Way campaign at the workplace will choose to give through a payroll deduction system. So they might have $4, $5, $6 per pay taken out of their paycheck, and so that's an easy way for people to give, because it's hard to pull $100 out of your pocket, but it's easier to give $100 over the course of a year. It's a little bit out of each paycheck. It also is helpful to United Way because it provides us with a pretty steady stream of income, because we have 21, 22 local agencies that we support now with the United Way campaign, and we pay them on a monthly basis. And so each month we have to have about $50,000, $60,000 to send to the agencies, and so it works well. The income coming in that way, and us supporting the agencies that way.
Rather than like a lump sum, and then you don't know if you're going to be
Correct.
in September if you're going to be able to pay out the money to.
Yeah.
So what agencies do you? Oh, I see a bunch of them here.
Yeah, there's a list there. Well, as I said, we have about 22 agencies, and I have to stress for your viewers that all of the agencies that the United Way of Ashtabula County supports are providing services to people in Ashtabula County. Otherwise, they're not going to receive funding from our United Way.
Okay.
I mean, that's the number one criteria: is you are helping people in Ashtabula County. Most of the organizations are homegrown. We support, for instance, the Conneaut Human Resource Center.
Right.
I think they get $50,000 or $60,000 per year from our United Way. Many people are familiar with Home Safe, which is the battered women's shelter, which will provide a place to stay for women and their children, even at 3 o'clock in the morning
Right.
if they need it because they're trying to escape an abusive situation. We also support the Country Neighbor Program way down in Orwell.
Right, which is similar to the things that the kind of
Which is very
resource does.
similar, but they're serving people in the Orwell and Andover
Right.
area. Jefferson Community Center, and well, you can see the whole list.
Samaritan
of
House, which
Samaritan House, which is
which
the
is
homeless
shelter,
in
yeah.
Ashtabula County. Correct.
I know that
And
they
again,
need.
all of those that I just mentioned are, like I like to say, they're homegrown organizations. Local people saw a need. In the case of Samaritan House, they saw that we had homeless people in
Right.
Ashtabula County, and we need to provide people with shelter. We can't have people living in the streets, in the woods, wherever. It's just important for us as a society to make sure that people have shelter. So there were people who came together and created this organization called Samaritan House. Same with Home Safe. We know we have women who are victims of abuse. What can we as a society, as a community, do to help those women and those children? So they came together and they created Home Safe. It's a uniquely American kind of a thing to create organizations of that sort to address
Right.
problems.
And
in
they're
the
not
community.
all operated by the government.
They're not operated
Yeah,
by the government.
right.
They're operated by local volunteers.
Yeah.
Of course, those local volunteers will often hire staff because especially a place like Home Safe, which runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you need some staff. You can't do those kinds of things with volunteers. But they are volunteer run in that the boards of trustees, the boards of directors are all volunteers.
Right.
Yeah.
And we need to go to one more commercial before we go to 9 o'clock hour, but the Red Cross,
The Red Cross.
which is there when there's a fire
Right.
and helps people out as
Right.
well as other things.
Yeah.
And Boy Scouts, Catholic Charities, which
Girl
does a lot of
Scouts.
stuff. Girl Scouts, yes.
I think, I assume most of your viewers are probably from the Conneaut area, and I think it's important for people who live say you live in Orwell, you live in Conneaut, you live in Pierpont, to understand that even though you don't have the organization headquarters in your locale, these organizations are serving people
Yes.
in your neighborhoods, in
Yes.
your communities. So if a woman is being abused by a spouse or a partner in Conneaut and she needs shelter, she will get that shelter from Home Safe.
Right. And that's been in the news all too much lately.
It is, unfortunately.
So we're talking about United Way. We're going to be talking about some other things here. But I don't know, when you hear about like Samaritan House too, but Home Safe, when you hear about all of these stories about women that are abused, the Mandy Gottschalk, the woman in Ashtabula who was murdered by her boyfriend, and just some of these horrendous things that are going on.
I mean, these things are real. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we think they're Hollywood stories or they're the television movie of the week or something like that. But these kinds of incidences and tragedies occur in Ashtabula County, and they're serious issues for us, unfortunately. And so we're really in need of organizations such as Home Safe to be out there advocating for women and to be providing protection whenever those women need that protection. And unfortunately, it's one of those facts of life that we wish didn't exist.
Right.
We wish didn't exist, but in reality it does.
And it's too bad some people don't take advantage of this. That should, something like Home Safe. They stay with an abusive partner
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of dynamics going on in an abusive situation, many of which I can't address. I should say that I think it's important to just let your viewers know that United Way doesn't run any of these programs that we're talking about. In fact, we think it's inappropriate for us to kind of put our stamp on an organization because the volunteers and the staff at HomeSafe know far more than I know about domestic violence and the issues and the things that cause domestic violence. So our role really is to provide funding to that organization and to do as I'm doing right now, to let the community know that organizations such as HomeSafe or Country Neighbor or the Right Track program here in Conneaut exist. So we provide them with funding. We also let the community know that these programs are there if they find that they have a need for these particular programs.
So you don't go out to Arthritis Foundation and say, we're going to give you money, but first you got to do this for us, or not. You don't do anything like that.
We don't do that. We can get into the whole process.
But you must do some kind of investigation. I don't know if investigation is the right word, but you do look into each of these and make sure that the money is going.
We certainly do.
To help people.
We certainly
do.
That
it's not the six-figure director that's getting the money or whatever.
Every year, when we're finished with our campaign, it's time then for these partner charities, partner agencies as we call them, to ask the United Way for money. And so they submit to us a budget and an explanation of their programs. They show us how many people they've served in the past year, how many people they expect to serve in the coming year, what has been the outcomes for those people, what kind of success did they have. And then we have at United Way 50 or 60 volunteers every year who meet with our organizations, who look over their budgets in detail. And then our volunteers have to make those tough choices about where United Way dollars will go. So every year, our volunteers will decide how much money is going to go to the Conneaut Human Resource Center, how much money is going to go to the Salvation Army, how much money is going to go to Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. And these are really tough decisions because those are very different organizations serving very different people, but they're all important to Ashtabula County. So our volunteers have to do a lot of soul searching and make sure that United Way dollars are going to where they're going to do the most good for the most people in Ashtabula County.
Do you ever not fund somebody the next year and fund somebody else instead?
Yes, we do that. There have been times when we've had to just tell an organization, we're sorry, you're not meeting certain standards that we would expect for getting United Way money. There are times when we reduce the amount of money that an organization is getting for the same reasons. And sometimes, we change organizations that we fund. Just 2 years ago, the Girl Scouts became a United Way agency, and so we're funding the Girl Scouts in Ashtabula County, and hadn't funded the Girl Scouts for many, many years. So agencies will come, will go. It's pretty stable overall, but there are some changes that will be made.
Well, if you look down the list, it looks like a lot of programs that are well known to be doing good work. Everything from food, delivering food, support for people with health issues, vocational training, legal services. Reach out. Oh, it's okay. What's this thing about pediatricians? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Partnership with, okay, that's something we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, that's a new program, really, just in its infancy.
And we were talking off air a little bit about that. Reach out and read, and then you also fund Dolly Parton Imagination Library too.
Yes.
So that's two things that pretty much go together.
They go together. There's partners, if you will. That a number of years ago, our volunteers at the United Way became concerned about the numbers of children, preschool children, who are coming to kindergarten on the first day, and they simply aren't ready for kindergarten because they don't have the basic skills they need to be successful in kindergarten. They don't understand their numbers, their letters. how words are structured within a book. For whatever reason, they don't have some of those basic skills. And what we know is that if kids come to kindergarten and they're not prepared, there's a good chance that they won't do well. And they will be behind on that first day. And the studies show that they may never catch up their whole entire school career. So they will be behind in kindergarten, they will be behind in third grade, they will be behind in junior high, they will be behind in senior high. They may not go to college. They may not have a successful academic experience in school. And what we do know, and the data is really clear, is that if children have access to books when they are under the age of 5, they do a lot better in school when they enter school. And it's that simple. Giving children books gives them the opportunity to sit down with the book, have a parent or a grandparent or aunt or uncle read to them. They have an opportunity to develop those basic skills that might otherwise be missing. And so 3 years ago, our United Way said, we're going to do something about this. And we launched the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which is very simple in concept. Parents, grandparents sign a child up for the program, and then we send them a free book every month in the mail until they reach the age of 5. And so that child acquires a lot of books, and that's a lot of opportunity for reading. And this has been so successful. We are, I just ran a report the other day. So far in 2015, we have sent to preschoolers in Asheville County 7,402 books.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really a remarkable number. We have almost 1,000 children right now who are getting free books from us every month in the mail. And we anticipate that it's going to make a significant difference for the kids who are getting those books when they are finally in elementary school.
We had a representative from the county library on Monday, and we talked about that a little bit. And she says you can now online, if you're a parent, and parents online, if they add another child or if they move or whatever, they can kind of handle their account online.
Let me give a little shout out to the people at the Conneaut Public Library. And I want the people of Conneaut to know this. There are more kids from Conneaut in our Dolly Parton Imagination Library program than any other community in Asheville County. So there are more kids from Conneaut in the program than there are kids from City of Ashtabula in the program. So, and I give I credit that a great deal to the good people at the Conneaut Public Library for promoting this, for promoting our program. But yes, we've now instituted an online registration system. So if parents want to sign up their children for the program, just go to the United Way website, unitedwayashtabula.org, and you will find on it the link to the Dolly Parton program, and it'll take you 2 minutes to sign your child up, and in a few weeks your child will start getting free books.
Yeah, we talked with Amanda Ladford from the Conneaut Library on Monday about the studies that show that they measure brain activity of kids when they're being read to, and versus seeing the same thing on a television screen, and that there is a lot more brain activity, there's more absorption of words and concepts when they're being read to, and that pediatricians are now telling expectant mothers, as soon as that kid's born, the kid looks like, read to him anyway. It doesn't look like it makes any sense, but from the time that kid's born, get out the plastic books that they spit all over and you wipe them off, but give them that book and have them start reading. Right,
which leads me to another program that we're doing. But let me just say that we have had parents sign up their children when the children, because we see the sign-ups, and they sign up their children when the children are only a couple of days old. So parents are getting that message that these kinds of things need to start long before the child's holding his or her head up and babbling and doing all those things. So begin reading to your child as soon as you have that child. And you're right, the studies showing the importance of reading it's overwhelming. One thing when you're reading a book to a child, the child has a chance to ask a question about that character or that color, and the parent has the opportunity to point something out or to talk about the future.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen to that turtle? Those kinds of. And the other thing that happens in reading, as opposed to television or any kind of a screen, is that children are introduced to words that they won't hear in normal conversation, even in simple children's books. If you look at a children's book, you may see words, concepts that we just don't bring up in our day-to-day conversation, because day-to-day conversation, we use a limited number of words.
People tend sometimes to dumb down their words when they're talking to a kid.
When they're talking to a child.
Which they probably shouldn't.
Which they should not.
No.
And so books will, as I said, introduce children to words and concepts, ideas, of course, cultures, everything else that they wouldn't normally have in normal, regular conversation. I was reading a newspaper article the other day about the concern that too many young children now have smartphones and screens. And one of the pediatricians, I'm going to start using the quote, he said, children need laps, not apps. And I just thought that was great.
That is very good.
So I think you may start seeing that in some of our United Way advertising.
That is
laps,
very
not
good.
apps.
Yeah.
But speaking of pediatricians, which you brought up, we are also it's in its infancy. We're beginning this program called Reach Out and Read, and I'm going to be speaking in the next week or so with a number of local doctors, UH doctors in Conneaut and elsewhere, about becoming a partner with United Way in the Reach Out and Read program. And what it amounts to is that the physicians agree that when they have a parent bring a child to an appointment, the physician will speak with the parents about the importance of reading. Some of the things you just mentioned, how reading to a child improves brain function and intelligence and all those desirable things that we want with our children. And then the pediatrician, the physician, will then also give a free book to a child at the appointment. So it's another way for us to get books in the hands of local children, and we're very excited about that.
Yeah,
program.
excellent. We've been talking about some of the programs of United Way, but we're also talking about a couple of programs that help kids learn to read. And one thing that I don't is that sometimes people that have less education themselves, well, I don't know, I think there's been studies showing that those kids don't hear as many words, maybe because they're not being spoken to as much, or whatever. And
that's right. I mean, the data show that, I forget what the age, by age 12 or something like that, that the children from a lower income household will hear as many as 30 million fewer words in that first 12 years of life. That's remarkable. And not only that, it's the sophistication of the language that they're hearing. And again, that's why books are so important, because one, it's an opportunity for kids to hear words when parents when parents read the books, so the children are hearing the dialogue in the books. But again, the children and the parent also have a chance to interact outside of what the book is actually saying. And also, again, as I said earlier, because the book will introduce children to concepts that they may not hear from their parents in normal, everyday conversation. There was I don't know if you saw it, yesterday Growth Partnership put out an email, and it talked about a concern that one thing that might be holding our economy back in Nashville County is the fact that we have fewer college graduates than other communities. And they draw through some comparisons to Cleveland and elsewhere. Just the numbers of people we have in Nashville County who have college degrees is pretty quite low compared to other places in Ohio. And so a lot of times our workforce is lacking the skills the ability to kind of bring those ideas that they may have gotten through education to the economy. And that's part of our reason for doing, that's much of our reason for doing these reading programs, because we want our kids to succeed early, succeed often in school, do well in school, so they do go on to get some higher education. We think that is ultimately what Asheville County needs if we're ever going to have an economy that takes off.
If you don't do that, there's so many wasted resources. There might be a kid that doesn't do as well, child A doesn't do as well as child B because he hasn't had the background and stuff. But if he did have it, he might be a huge resource that we're losing. And he's going through school kind of second best or whatever. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but
through no fault of their own.
Right, absolutely.
And no fault of the educational system, and because I'm really sympathetic to our teachers and to our administrators at our school districts in Asheville County, because these are challenges that they are facing. And as I said, on that first day of kindergarten, they have some children who show up who simply really aren't ready, and what a difficult position that puts them in. I have such respect for elementary school teachers, especially because, again, that first day, they get children who might be able to read at the third grade level, and they might get other children who have no concept of reading whatsoever. And how do you teach a class with such a disparity?
Hello, you're on the air.
Something else that's sadly lacking in the educational system anymore is the practical thing of cooking and sewing and shop. I can see why they've stopped shop because of liability insurance, I suppose. But there certainly needs to be somewhere or something that because kids just don't, when they grow up and get married, they haven't a clue of how to fix a meal or anything like that. And they used to learn that in school.
Learning how to write a check or budget your budget and that sort of thing.
Right, absolutely. Practical things. Because everybody isn't going on to college, but everybody's going to grow up to be an adult and face these practical things in their life, and they have no preparation whatsoever.
Well, school districts are under a great amount of pressure by the state and by the federal government and even their own communities to do so many different things now that they have to meet certain standards in math, certain standards in science, certain standards in the humanities, and so on and so forth, that they're really squeezed for time. And so you're right. Some of those things that we had when we were in school, showing my age here, have gone by the wayside. I think in part because schools are under pressure to develop these skills which are seen as being maybe more critical to our economy and to the future of our country than some of the others are. But I think there are many times that maybe schools would like to do some things, but there simply are not enough hours in a day for them to be able to do this for their students.
The other thing that you're talking about that is in grade schools, they don't go out for recess as much. We used to go out.
That's all I did for when I was in school.
Yes, right. But we had 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. And then we went home for lunch, and then there was a bunch of time we would play outside until the bell rang to go back in. And they just don't do that anymore. And there's kids that are sitting there twirling around and whacking themselves in the head, and it's just because they're not getting enough exercise. And so that's...
If I could get back to just another reason why we provide books to kids is because I've been talking a lot about data this morning, but another bit of data that we know is that it's hard for low-income families to be able to afford books. When you have to buy shoes and buy clothes and buy food and pay utilities and all those things, books may fall farther and farther and farther down on the priority list. We know that 61% of low-income homes don't have even one children's book. Not one.
61%?
61% of low-income homes don't have a children's book in the house. So what kind of disadvantages are those children facing?
Monumental.
Monumental, that's right. So we feel good that when we have a low-income family who signs up for these programs or goes to a doctor and gets a free book for us, they're getting something that's a true gift and it is going to propel their children ahead. But also, I think it's important for us to improve reading skills across the board, whether people are low income, middle income, upper income. And I don't think we can assume that just because someone's from a middle income home that they're kind of getting the background and that they need in order to succeed in school. I'm reluctant to talk about my own situation, but I think it illustrates things pretty well. My dad didn't graduate from high school, and my mom did in a kind of a general program, and she was a nurse's aide for pretty much her whole life. They were good. I had good, loving parents. Mm-hmm. They were terrific parents, but they really didn't understand that they had a role in my education. There were no books in my life, simply because my parents didn't realize that was an important thing.
Wait till they get into kindergarten.
Wait till they get into kindergarten, and the kindergarten will take care of them. I'm not casting blame. That's just the culture in which they came from. A very different culture than what I introduced my children to. So I think that I and the kids in my neighborhood, who are all from very similar cultural backgrounds, could have really benefited from this kind of a program. So we're happy to be providing this for people really across the board. There's
also the link, I've got 3 grandchildren, and when they come to our house, my wife has to, Grandma, will you read this? And they'll pull out like Richard Scarry's Cars and Trucks and things that go. And when you're talking
Worm.
Yeah, and so where is he on the page, and what's going on here? And there's a bunch of glass, and what's going to happen here, and I mean, you can look at that book 1,000 times, and there's something new for them to discuss.
We had when my son was very young, one of our favorite books had absolutely no words, none, but it was basically a person walking through New York City. It was an illustrated book. It wasn't photographs. It was illustrated. And so he's passing, I just remember, he's passing marching bands, and he's passing, I think, the Chrysler Building, and he's passing Times Square, whatever. So it was a way, with a simple picture book, for my son, who lived in Kingsville, Ohio, to get a sense of what New York City was like. So it introduced him to a whole other culture, multi-dimensional, very diverse, culture that you're never going to experience in our locale here. So even something without words can just be so informative for children.
And also, all the libraries around here, we have Mariana Branch on tomorrow from the Kingsville Library, who's brought up the Dolly Parton program on
She's
here.
a great supporter. Mariana is actually on the United Way board. I need to give her a little mention there.
She was on the posters last year,
She was in our video last year, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there were posters that were around.
Oh, yes, that's right. She was in the poster as well.
So I'd mention that every once in a while. Yeah. Well, I just saw your picture about 9 times, so I thought I'd better call you.
And speaking of posters, we do have, this is just show your viewers, this is our brochure and pledge form. We roll them into one to save money. And this year we've brought back a photo of Renee Roach from the food pantry there. Because, of course, we support the County Human Resource Center and all the work they do there, including the food pantry that Renee runs.
That's an excellent job they do there. There's a lot of good support for people if they know where to find it and all, and take advantage of it. But yeah, the book thing, that is. So if somebody wants to donate to United Way, or because especially at the reading program or whatever, is there a way that they can do that without having to be at a business or the industry?
I think it's important to say that these programs cost money. The United Way board has budgeted $40,000 this year for these early reading programs. That's $40,000 that we don't have unless people make donations to our United Way. So if you feel that you've heard something today that is worth supporting, I would encourage you to make a donation to United Way. If you work somewhere where there's a United Way campaign, that's probably your easiest way through payroll deduction. You can certainly give to us in other ways, mail a check to the United Way, or maybe the easiest way is to go on our website again, unitedwayashtabula.org, and there's a on the website you'll see a button that just says donate, and you can just click on that and make an online gift through a credit card, debit card, or some other means.
Did Easy Pay? No, is that what's it called? Yeah.
It's easy to pay. That's all I know.
Okay.
It's easy to make a contribution.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
It's as easy as buying, something from J.C. Penney online. So,
I mean, I get enough emails from them.
but all of our programs, we rely on the generosity of the people of Ashtabula County. All of the money that we raise comes from people in Ashtabula County. We're not getting it from Washington D.C. We're not getting it from Los Angeles or Cleveland. It's coming from people here in Ashtabula County.
If you go there, I'm certain you can see all of the organizations.
You can see all of the
But I
organizations.
mean, there's a diversity. We've mentioned Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts,
Yeah.
but there's Catholic Charities, there's Goodwill Industry, there's Kidney Foundation, there's Legal Aid, there's the American Red Cross, Regional Home Health Center, a lot of things that provide food, nutrition, health care, medical care, other enrichments like the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. And
I think we have a pretty comprehensive website. So if you visit again unitedwayashtabula.org, you can find links to all these organizations if you want to learn more about them. There's also a link to our current campaign video, which is like 3 minutes long, so it's easy to view.
are there any cats in it?
I've excluded cats this year, but there are some local Conneaut people in the video again this year. It's all locally shot, and so it gives you a pretty good idea of what we're trying to do to improve Ashtabula County.
So while you're sitting here doing things like this, would you rather be out on a bicycle?
I would rather be, especially, what is it, 74 degrees and San
Yeah.
So we need to tell your audience that you and I ride bicycles together
Yeah.
on occasion. So,
Right, yeah.
So,
And then I was thinking last night, except for the fact it got dark at 5 o'clock,
Yes.
would have been a nice night to do it.
yeah, so. Yes, it's a wonderful area for riding bicycles.
It is. And there are places in Ashtabula County that I have heard about or read about or edited stories about, but I never really
Never
got
were there till you got on a bicycle.
right until you got on the bicycle or didn't get up close and personal. Like Roaming Shores, I'd never been around Roaming Shores until I rode around there on a bicycle.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And how beautiful that
Yeah.
is.
We'll have to do a whole show on just bicycling.
Yeah.
Bring some of our bicycle friends in here.
Yes,
If you wanna
I
go
think that'd be an
someday.
excellent idea.
And in fact, I was on Bridge Street yesterday, and I noticed a whole bunch of bicyclists. This is the middle of the day, and they were obviously retirees. Who can be
Right.
riding at 11 o'clock in the morning on a weekday? And but I was talking with them, and 3 women who were of retirement age had ridden over here from Madison to Bridge Street. I don't know, drink a little coffee, do a little shopping, I guess, and then they were just about to head back to Madison. So it was wonderful to see people of that age out there being active.
Yeah, definitely.
And taking care of themselves.
I was at the director of the Bureau of Tourism for the state of Ohio. I was in Ohio. I was in the county in Ashtabula County. They visited Bridge Street and different places. So I met her down at Township Park, and there were some bicyclists there from just outside of Toronto, and they were riding around Lake Erie.
Oh,
from
like a circle tour around
yeah,
here.
and a couple days ahead of time they would find out where they're going to be, and they would call hotels and motels and stuff just for the night, and that was kind of interesting. That sounds like something would be good to do.
So I just want your viewers to know this guy is really fast on a bicycle. So if you ride with him, just be ready to wave to him as he disappears over the horizon.
There's some people there I think are a little faster than me, but it's good fun and socializing and all that sort of thing. So I was thinking about when I was talking a little bit about kids that don't get enough exercise, and that's like one time I was reading here on the air something about that. And when I got home that night, it was a Thursday, I decided to ride over to the grandkids, and we all got on bicycles and went around and rode around their neighborhood. I mean, some of them they don't even have, one of them is like a scooter. It looks like a bike, but there's no pedals, and they just push.
Yeah, right.
So So read to your kids and make sure that they exercise.
That's
huh?
right.
That's what you're learning
That's
here
right.
today.
I mean, that, you know, you had your caller earlier was talking about some of the basics that kids need. Nothing gets more basic than improving their minds, improving their bodies.
Right.
And if you take care of those two things,
Yeah.
life is going to be a whole lot better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this on the air, but this study was somebody was talking about kids that don't get enough exercise. And it was the end of the day, and the teacher was trying to read something to them. And there was a girl, and she's got a water bottle, and she whacked herself over the head with it because she just didn't get enough exercise.
Yeah.
And so they both go very much in hand. And if you're out there biking or something, it's going to give your kids, there's a better chance that they're going to be doing that sort of thing too.
We're all role models for our kids and our grandkids, that's for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Randy
Thank
Jones
you, Bob.
from United Way. Maybe we'll see
My
you.
bike's out back. We'll
Is it?
head out now.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. We'll be back in a minute.